What up, YouTube fam? It's April G Showers back at y'all with a video of Royce the 5'9's and Budden's responses to the song Vacancy by Kxng and Joell Ortiz featuring Black Soul. I did the reaction bar breakdown on that and told y'all I would be making a video with Royce's and Budden's responses. So that's what this is. What I wanted to do is do it kind of like a regular reaction, but unfortunately I'm having some health issues going on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm recording my intro and outro like this, and then y'all will hear my voice. I've created like a slideshow of their responses, because their responses are not songs, of course. Royce responded on Instagram and Budden responded on his podcast. The podcast, if I would have just put clips of the podcast and him talking, that would have gotten copyright claimed. So instead, I took the time to watch the podcast and take different screenshots of it and stuff. And I wrote down the conversation that Joe and his co-hosts or other hosts or whatever you want to call them, of the conversation they had about it. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoy the video. I'm sorry it's not the video maybe y'all were expecting or that I was planning on doing, but it is their responses and my thoughts on their responses. I do want to start by saying I don't think the song Vacancy by Kxng and Joell Ortiz was disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. They showed respect to Royce and just told the truth, you know. So I do believe, you know, Kxng and Joell Ortiz are very, very intelligent human beings and artists, and won't allow Royce and Joe's narcissism and egos to affect them and get them to get like down and dirty and say hateful stuff like what Royce and Joe tend to do and have done already, which is ridiculous. But you know, I hate to see it, because they could have been an amazing rap group. They were an amazing rap group while they were together. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoy this video, and comment below y'all's thoughts on it and y'all's thoughts on the situation. Now, Kxng and Joell Ortiz has responded to Royce and Budden's responses. They did that over Twitter Spaces. So I have that recorded for y'all as well, which will be another video. It will probably be the next video after this video. So yeah, be on the lookout for that as well. Alright y'all, April G Squad, fist bump. Love y'all. Let's get it. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna start with Royce the 5'9's response to the song Vacancy by Kxng and Joell Ortiz featuring Black Soul. Royce went on IG, posted the picture that you see on your screen, and then what he said under that picture, he said, "You have 25% ownership equity in a building. Let's say an apartment building. You built this building with your 3 partners, brick by brick. Obviously, his 3 partners in this situation, he is talking about King Crooked, Joell, Ortiz, and Joe Budden. It's worth millions. Suddenly, the value drops because it needs renovations, etc. You and your partners have been talking about when and how this work is going to get done. Y'all just need to agree on plan of attack. Meanwhile, you and just one of the other partners receive an offer to build another building together, but with just the 2 of you, minus your other 2 partners. Yes, there's a check involved, but just one catch. You have to burn down the building you already have without informing your other 2 partners in order to do so. Would you do it? Didn't think so. Me neither. So that was Royce's response. He's also said things like, we stand united in stupidity and stuff like that. Just, Royce being Royce, pretty much. So that was pretty much Royce's response. So we're going to get into Joe Budden's response. This is on his podcast, episode 513, and his response to the whole situation starts at timestamp 50 minutes and 50 seconds, if anybody wants to go check it out and watch it for themselves. So let's get into it. These are the guys that are now in Joe Budden's podcast. I believe one of them's name is Ish. One of them's name is Ice. I do believe. I don't know which one is which, to be honest. Just being real. Obviously, Joe Budden is in the middle. So this guy starts out and he just says that people are just wanting a reaction out of Joe. That's what the whole song was about. They're just wanting, a reaction out of Joe. Joe then, and he says, that they don't deserve it. He wouldn't give them that reaction. Joe then says, but if you keep letting people paint you in a certain light and stay silent, then it looks a certain way to the audience. And then this guy says, then I might respond in 6 months when it doesn't benefit them. To which Joe says, and that guy had also said something about Joe maybe looking for some sort of vindication. And then Joe says he's not looking for vindication. Then he goes on to talk about as far as attention and money in reference to King Crooked and Joell Ortiz. He says they need it more than me. Then he gives an example of when his mother's car was broken into. And he says that he told his mother at that point, well, those people obviously needed it more than you needed it. And he gave that as an example and, said at least, his mother wasn't hurt and that kind of stuff. Then, right here where you see Joe having the little smirk and smile on his face, again, in reference to money, he was, like I said they need it more than me. And he says, you got to do what you got to do for the bag, talking about money. And he says, I support hoe culture. And then he says, and I'm going to make that correlation to hoe culture a lot during this conversation. He says, this is a trigger of mine. And now this is different. He says, God is telling me to have a restraint, so I will. But he also says he would like to have clarity. And then this guy here says, then I would pick up the phone and have a private conversation with them. And if not, then, you know, it is what it is. Let it be what it be. And let them do what they do. And you keep growing and ascending without them. And then Joe then responds as far as the phone. And he says, I have picked up the phone. He says, you know, people are doing stuff for money. And he said, throw words like integrity around, but actions show insecurity. Their actions show insecurity. He said, I need to clear it up for people and address it. He says, I'm hurt. I'm not angry, but I won't misdirect my anger. He says, I don't know why all this is going on just because there's a difference in ideology. And he says, so I'm not supposed to address it here and just watch the clown show? And he said, I can't do that. And then this guy says, I can't tell you how to move. I can only say what I'd do. And he says, I'd pick up the phone for clarity or keep it moving and not do it publicly and just let it ride. And then Joe says right here, but doing it that way says you can't just have a conversation. And then this guy says, no, you have it privately. It ain't got to be public. To which Joe responds to him, we've had this conversation 90 million times over the course of 10 years. That's all Joe says. The conversation has been had 90 million times over the course of 10 years. And then this guy says, so what does you addressing it right now even solve? What would it solve? Addressing it right now. And then Joe says, because there's a teachable moment for people who watch this. And then this guy says, well, but then you just go down a wormhole and have to address every single thing that people say that way. To which Joe responds, okay, so you move one way behind the scenes. You divulge only certain info to the public to frame certain things a certain way to leverage your audience and take advantage of fan equity. And then this guy says, yeah, but look at it as a blessing that you don't have to do that, implying that King Crooked and Joell Ortiz, that is what they're doing. He don't say that, but he implies it because he said, look at it as a blessing that you don't have to do that. And then Joe then says, it just hurts when you do it at the expense of me. This guy says, take the advice you gave your mama. They needed it, and leave it at that. They needed it more than you, and leave it at that. This was Joe's face when he said that, like, damn. That was a good one, he said to the guy. And then Joe says, I'm gonna go off one day. Y'all know that's what happens when you suppress things. If you keep things bottled inside. This guy says, let it play out first. The album and the web series talking about Joell Ortiz'S and King Crooked's album, The Rise and Fall of Slaughterhouse, that's coming out March 11th. And then their web series that they just started on Crook's Corner YouTube channel. Joe says here, you know why people love the movie Friday the 13th? And then he says, because Jason kills people and people expect Jason to keep killing people. That's what y'all want me to watch. This is utterly disgusting. Then he says, I don't like it. But nah, love and light. And you can tell by Joe's face right in that last little part right there. He doesn't mean love and light at all. And then both the guys here say to Joe, you'll look back at this one day and be like, I'm glad I listened. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Then Joe says, let's move on. And then he says, let's talk about friends exploiting the relationship. And then they all laugh about Joe saying that. And then they say something about the president. But Joe still can't let go the subject of Slaughterhouse and Kxng Crooked and Joell Ortiz'S song. And the other guy tries to, say, well, Jay-Z got a new album coming, as he was laughing. And then Joe says right here, as you can see in the picture, he says, so you can just never respond to nothing when you get to a certain tax bracket. And then this guy says, when you shot at Jay-Z, did Jay-Z reply to you? Joe responds, yes, he did. He was on my ass. The other guy told him, no, he didn't. And Joe's like, yes, he did. He mentioned every washed-up basketball player and called me him. And they continue to jokingly argue about if Jay-Z really replied. This is where Joe was talking about it. And then right here, this guy says, Joe, it's just not beneficial for you. Again, talking about Joe responding the way he wants to Kxng Crooked and Joell Ortiz. And then Joe right here says, well, I'll sleep better at night. And he says, y'all keep saying, pick up a phone. But the phone calls end where they end. And if nobody's going to be honest about where they end, then why can't the guy who talks for a living come in and be honest about where they ended at? And he's looking at both of them, like, why can't I come in and be honest about these phone calls? And then they tell him, both of them do, because that's just your truth. Put a little light on that and leave it alone. And then Joe, with this face here, as you can see, just says, aight, come on, move on. What you got? And they move on to the next topic. But Joe was obviously upset about it. That was Royce's and Joe's responses to Kxng Crooked and Joell Ortiz'S newest song, Vacancy. My thoughts on it, I think Royce's response was a typical Royce response, and I think it was pretty disrespectful, you know what I mean? After we hear what Kxng Crooked and Joell Ortiz had to say back to Joe and Royce, we'll see, what's going on. That video should be coming up soon. I don't expect Joe or Royce really to get in the booth and make any kind of music over it. I mean, we know Joe Budden ain't fixing to rap again. I mean, it would be dope if he did, because he's an amazing lyricist, just like Royce He's an amazing lyricist. After everything I've heard, I have to say that I'm with Kxng and Joell Ortiz on this. Their song Vacancy, once again, was not disrespectful in any way. They were just letting the fans know, hey, this is what happened. This is why we're no longer a group, and we're sorry. And, you know, I think that's dope. I can't wait to hear the rest of the album. Again, it's called The Rise and Fall Slaughterhouse. It'll be coming out March the 11th. Y'all let me know in the comments, what do y'all think of Royce and Joe's responses? I'll be putting out the video of what Joell Ortiz and Kxng had to say about what Royce and Joe had to say, maybe later tonight. If not, then at the latest tomorrow night, Friday night. Also, episode 3 of the Queen's podcast will not be coming out until 2 weeks from this Sunday due to prior commitments. So, y'all can be thinking of topics and go comment on episode 2 in the comments, some topics for us to discuss. I appreciate y'all watching this, and y'all let me know what y'all think. What do y'all think of everything? Be real. Be respectful, please. But be real. If y'all haven't checked out my bar breakdown and reaction to Vacancy by Kxng, Joell Ortiz featuring Black Soul, go check it out. And please like this video on your way out. A lot more important than you think. And please subscribe to my channel, y'all. April G. Squad. Fist bump. Love y'all. And I'll see y'all in just a little bit. Peace out.